brewing and what opportunities are there for us to really have greater success right here in our own hemisphere. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Keating. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. I want to go to you, Secretary Nichols. I have a very specific question. Obviously, the work that we do here does affect very specific companies, very specific countries, very specific individuals. And the question that I want to start with affects a company that is also located in my community. They're dealing with Mexico. President Lopez Obrador threatening to essentially take over their port, their land in the Yucatan Peninsula. That's Vulcan Materials. Are you familiar with this as a situation? I think you are.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You know, a little bit of overview on that. What could you say about that? What are you all doing to prevent this? What warning would you give this president on the way out as they're making this threat? What can you do about it? Happy to hear anything you have to say.
Thank you. This has been an issue for quite some time, as you know. We have raised our concerns with the government of Mexico at multiple levels.
Please don't gloss over those. Be specific about what those concerns are.
The security and reliability of investments under the framework of the USMCA is a matter of great interest to the United States. We have mechanisms to deal with dispute resolution under USMCA. We have met with the leadership of Vulcan multiple times to understand their concerns and their suggested way forward in this issue. Senior officials from multiple U.S. agencies have raised this with their counterparts in Mexico, and will continue
What would be
to
the
focused.
Mexican counterparts?
So the Secretary of Economy in Mexico, as well as their Navy Secretary, which controls the ports.
Conversations are fruitful or have borne no fruit? What would you say?
Well, again, we have had detailed conversations. I would say that certainly Mexican authorities understand our concerns, but we continue to talk about the way forward.
Do you have any message you'd like to deliver to the President of Mexico from this committee right now?
Well, I certainly think that those conversations are more productively held in private.
Okay, I appreciate it. I do have, since I have a little bit more time, I will go to a different line of questioning. Were you in your post when there was an authorization for, I want to say the number was about $20,000 for drag shows in Ecuador?
Yes, but that's not an issue that I worked on in any way.
Very good. I'm just, and I'm glad to hear that you weren't working on it. It saves you some headache of some questions, but I would be interested to know how many people do you think were a part of vetting that, signing off on that as a, creating the solicitation for it, authorizing the solicitation to go out, and then ultimately approving that solicitation and offering grants? How many people would you say were in that approval process?
So as I understand the process, it was done entirely at the post level. It was not a Washington process. It's worth remembering that this grant never actually took place. There was no show. There was no.
That's
nothing
right. Political
that
pressure forced it to be ended, no doubt. And thankfully, it would have been a waste of $20,000 of taxpayer money. But still, the question remains: how does that get through to approval? Because it did get to the point of approval. So, how many people would you speculate at the post level had to put eyes on that in order for the solicitation, number one, to exist, and then number two, to be approved?
You know, it could be as few as 2 or 3 people. That for a small grant to be approved, and my colleagues manage money here, so they may have some insights into the broad process, not in the specific instance. But that's something you receive a proposal. It could be handled by local staff. Then even someone lower than a section chief, depending on the amount.
Did you look into it at all? Did you look into who it was?
This activity never took place and was canceled.
But did you look into who, from your position, did you look into who approved the solicitation and then who ultimately approved the grant?
Well, I talked to the chief of mission, and he told me that neither he nor the deputy chief of mission had ever seen anything about this, and it was a shock to them.
It was a shock, and so then there was a discussion about this. Who ultimately approved it? What was the title of the position that approved that?
I don't know the answer to that, sir.
Did you seek that information?
No, sir.
Do you believe that's important information for us to know?
I think that the important fact is that when it reached supervisory levels, didn't progress, didn't move forward for obvious reasons.
My time has expired. We're going to go to Ms. Manning for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank